Two tropical cyclones could form over the next several days, and these could bring impacts. Here to discuss everything we know, we're going to get very detailed. We'll cover all the current conditions, the latest from the National Hurricane Center. We'll go over all the model guidance from overnight into this morning. Something uncommon could happen with these two systems if they both form, and we'll talk about that as we get deeper into the video, but this will be jam-packed full of information. We'll compare model guidance. We'll have a section where we'll kind of geek out with you guys, discuss steering currents, and that's when things get a little bit weird. So we'll do that first, and then we'll go over today's weather, and then we'll be done. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So we'll start off by taking a broad look at the entire Atlantic. That's working for us. So of course, we do have Hurricane Gabrielle, which continues to race out further into the North Atlantic, but we won't talk about that really because it's not bothering anybody, thank goodness. And then we got Invest 94L and Invest 93L, but these are basically still just two tropical waves, okay? So this is Invest 93L. You can see it pretty good on your screen. Yesterday morning, you could see both pretty well on your screen, but we do have Invest 94L also, which is actually right here. And I know you can't see much of anything, but the actual center of this tropical wave or Invest is sort of right into here. So these two circled areas are the two tropical waves we are watching, and both have a high chance to develop. In fact, I'll show you what the National Hurricane Center is pretty much saying right now. So as we move forward, this is the latest from the National Hurricane Center. This is pretty much the 5 a.m. update. Invest 93L has a 90% chance to develop into a depression or a next named storm here in the next few to several days. And then we have Invest 94L, which has a 80% chance to develop between now and the next several days. And like I said, when I say develop, I'm meaning into a depression, basically a tropical system with a defined low-level feature, low-level circulation, or a named storm. The next name is Umberto. The name after that is Imelda, I believe is how you say it. Yes, Imelda. So that's the I name, actually, not the E name. It's the I name. So we could take two names right off the dot within a pretty short amount of time. So these are our two areas of interest that both have a high risk of developing. And then, of course, you still got 115 mile per hour major Hurricane Gabrielle way out here in the North Atlantic, not really bothering anybody. So just taking a closer look at these two tropical waves. This is Invest 93L, which is this red X right here. Okay, and then this is Invest 94L, which I know it doesn't look like much of anything, not popping off any of those colors which reflect convection, shower, and storm activity like you're seeing with this tropical wave. It's kind of hitting a lull, if you will, right now. It's kind of in a weakened state. We expect stuff like this from tropical waves, and sometimes they don't ever recover from this kind of stuff. So that's why we don't just watch model guidance, we watch real-time observations, right? Like what's going on right now. But that is this X right here. So a red X marks the spot, and that is exactly where it is right here, the center of whatever this is right at this second. So let's go over model guidance, what everybody really wants to see. So this is when things get a little bit weird. So as we move forward here, we're going to start this off for Thursday morning. Okay, that's tomorrow morning. The date's up here, September the 25th. You got this tropical wave, and we got this tropical wave. Both have not really gained much strength between now and the next 24 hours up to this point. So we continue to move into Friday morning. All right, Invest, and hopefully we don't get our Invest mixed up, but let's just call it this wave. Let's call it the Invest. Invest 93L, which is the one behind the lead wave, begins to develop. It starts to get into the 990s, which tells us this is probably developing to a tropical cyclone, tropical storm. So if model guidance is correct, the wave behind the first wave will likely take the name Umberto. But of course, that might not be the case. Let's not focus too much on that. Well, we continue to move into Saturday morning. This develops into an all-out hurricane. This is starting to get its act together a little bit more as it brings a lot of unsettled tropical weather into the Turks Caicos Islands, the Bahamas, heck, even the Greater Antilles between now and Saturday morning. So, I mean, we got a strengthening hurricane. We got a tropical cyclone beginning to gain some strength at this point. And then we take it into Sunday morning. We quite literally have two tropical cyclones at the same time, pretty close to one another. So we have a Category 2, borderline Category 3 hurricane well south of Bermuda, which is this area right here. And then we have a tropical storm right here. So if the Euro is correct, we would have Umberto right here. We would have Imelda right here. Okay, and as we continue to move into Monday, September the 29th, and I know it kind of, for whatever reason, kind of drops the L right here, so we can't really tell how strong this is, but this is still a tropical storm, maybe low-end Category 1 hurricane. It looks like it's heading right towards the Carolina coastline. At the same time, you have a major hurricane, guys, that is pretty close to this. You don't see two tropical systems this close to one another. And when they get this close to one another, sometimes they can alter the path of the other system. And normally it's the stronger system, which in this case would be this one, can yank on the other storm. We call that the Fujiwhara effect. And hopefully I said that correctly. That is going to be a word I'm going to try to avoid saying over and over again, but it's called the Fujiwhara effect. And basically it's just when, I'll show you. Watch what happens here. So you think, right, that this is heading right towards the Carolina coastline. And remember, this is just model guidance, right? It's going. It actually gets close enough Monday afternoon to bring impacts. It brings moisture into the Carolinas and the Southeast. At the same time, you have a major hurricane between, say, the Carolina coastline and Bermuda. I mean, look how close it is. I mean, their moisture is actually connecting on this run. So we get into Tuesday morning, and you think that we're about to have a landfalling tropical system right here, and watch what happens. Quite literally, this hurricane yanks on what looks like a hurricane right here, too. This is a hurricane, and yanks it back out into the Atlantic as we are getting into October 1st. So let's make this in quick motion so you can kind of see what's going on. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday yanks on the system. So literally the flow around this system, okay, pulls on this system. So pretty wild stuff, guys. I mean, really is. So remember that these systems rotate like this. Okay, so it actually yanks on this one and kind of pulls it almost underneath that one, but of course this one jets so far away it's not really underneath it. So what about the latest from the GFS? Now you take from this that, hey, this brings it close enough, Invest 94L, that eventually becomes a tropical cyclone. It brings it close enough to the Carolina coastline to bring impact. So let's break down the GFS, which we have enough of the run to show you everything, which is good. Okay, Thursday morning, this is getting into tomorrow. Okay, we get into Friday morning. All right, we have the development of what is Invest 93L into a 1001 millibar storm. So it's Tropical Storm Umberto. Same thing with the GFS as with the Euro. It develops that system first. We continue, and by the time we get into the end of this coming weekend, Sunday evening, we have a 969 millibar hurricane. That's a Category 2 to 3 hurricane well south of Bermuda, which is this spec right here. We still got a lower pressure right here, but the GFS is much slower with developing this. And in fact, it never does develop it. It's almost like it absorbs the energy. And it does impact the flow. It literally pulls. You can kind of see this. You see how these kind of isobars right here, you see how this kind of circle right here kind of gets absorbed into the main hurricane, which ends up being what right now is Invest 93L. So it never develops. This run of the GFS never really gets Invest 94L going. And it makes Invest 93L the main dominant feature, which is a hurricane. And then this races off and doesn't bother anybody. And listen, as crazy and funky as the GFS is, I could see this as a realistic scenario. And because it's hard to get too strong. It's hard to get two strong tropical cyclones this close to one another, kind of like what the Euro is saying. But I will mention, if you look at the run prior to this on the GFS, it does try to develop both. It's more slow. It's slower with Invest 93L. But you see how you have this circle right here? You see how you have the tropical system right here? That is 94L getting yanked north and literally kind of, it slingshots the energy. Watch what happens here. I think a better way to look at this, guys, is this right here. Watch this. These are two pieces of energy, right? This is Invest 93L, 94L. Watch what happens here. It yanks it up and slings it north. So they're so close to one another, they're impacting one another's basically steering currents. So, but with the GFS, this system doesn't bother anybody. Splits the gap between Bermuda and the East coastline. What about the Euro AI model? Here we go. Thursday morning. Tomorrow morning, we get into Friday morning. Okay. The Euro AI model really wants to kind of slam all the energy from Invest 94L, the lead wave, into the Greater Antilles. It really gets this deep into this area down here. We got a tropical storm at this point by Saturday from Invest 93L. And then we have a strengthening tropical storm. And then we get into Monday morning. Now we have a low pressure right here, which is probably, I don't know, a depression, a weak tropical storm right here over areas of the Bahamas. We have what is close to a hurricane with the trailing wave, Invest 93L. Okay, now we keep moving forward here. We get into Tuesday morning. The trailing wave actually weakens. The system that all the other model runs wants to really strengthen. But at this point, it looks like both of them are around the same strength. But we have a tropical storm, a strong tropical storm, right off the east coast of Florida by Tuesday morning on the Euro AI model, September the 30th. But look how close these systems are to one another. So once again, this one begins to strengthen into a hurricane right between Bermuda and the North Carolina coastline sometime midway next week. And they're close enough again where the cyclonic flow around the system begins to pull this system back that way. Okay, let's draw on this a little bit. So the flow is going just like this around this hurricane, right? This system feels that tug at the bottom southern flank of this hurricane and actually yanks it away. And it's almost, it's weird to think of it like this, but it's almost like our trailing wave saves us from the lead wave, which is 94L. It's almost like it just pulls it away. And that's exactly what happens. Look, both of them go. Now watch what happens with the Euro AI model. Once that first tropical system gets far enough away, this system kind of almost takes control of its own steering currents once again and kind of gets a hold of itself and then begins to do something funky and kind of lag with getting further out to sea. But just a quick motion of this, you can see it well. Both waves, this wave yanks it and then pulls it out, and then it detaches, and then it begins to get north again. Hope that makes sense, guys. This is going to be a funky one, and it's the Fujiwhara effect. That's what it is. Look it up on Google if you're like Mitch, and I'll try to explain it more on the steering currents here in a second. But the icon model, this goes all the way out to, I think, late Sunday night into Monday morning, and has a major hurricane, category 3 or 4 hurricane south of Bermuda, with the trailing wave, with the lead wave 94L, has a tropical storm into the Bahamas. But 2 tropical systems right beside each other once again. So what about the Euro ensemble? It likes both of these systems. So we'll start this off. This is Saturday morning. Okay. This is 93L, the trailing wave. This is 94L, the lead wave. Okay. See that one? That one. And that one, that one. Just want you guys to understand, I know this can get confusing. We're literally going to be tracking 2 at the same time, more than likely, unless a GFS scenario plays out one weekend. So we start to take this into Sunday. And remember, this is the Euro Ensemble. It makes up 51 members. Please don't think there's 51 hurricanes out here. All right. We start to get into Monday. The Euro, the ones that kind of can get going fast, there's a lot of these members that are a sub 1,000 millibar low. There's a lot of these members that are flat out hurricanes going into the Carolina coastline. All right. Some of them are really lagging, kind of hanging out down here. And then, of course, we got the trailing wave, which all signals point to this strengthening into a hurricane that is going to alter probably the path of this system. Some of these low pressures off the lead wave, 94L, kind of get bogged down here and almost try to slip into the Western Caribbean, eventually in the Gulf. But look how many members go right into the Carolina coastline. Then the strong signal with this. But if you look really closely, like right, we're going to get a really close look at this area right here. Okay, I want you to watch out. Some of these members right in here kind of get tugged this way. And it's going to have to load. You see how there's a few of those members that kind of tug to the east? That's that Fujiwhara effect. Okay, so it's pretty, and a lot of them begin to do it. You can see a lot of these members being tugged by the cyclonic flow of the trailing wave. So it's wild, guys. You know, and this is the Google DeepMind model, basically AI ensemble models here, which has done well. I know a lot of people's like AI, yeah. But listen, it's admittedly, I didn't want to believe it either. It's done well with models in the weather. It has, and it's honestly something that I think is worth just showing until it's not worth showing anymore, if that makes sense. So it shows both waves. We get into Monday morning. That is I'll say it, that is a worrisome signal on this ensemble. And I mean, it really, really wants the trailing wave Invest 93L taken off into a major hurricane. And I mean, listen, I'm going to say it now. If the trailing wave becomes a major hurricane, it is definitely going, and we do get a developing tropical system out of the lead wave, it is definitely going to alter the path. Whether if they're going to be that close to one another, which they will. So yeah, that's why you see all these L's right in here beginning to move more so to the east. I'm telling you, the flow around a major hurricane is going to yank this wave. And that's why if you look kind of right here in this area, let's back it up a little bit. Let's go into here. This is getting into Monday morning. Watching this area right here. You can see a clear difference between both waves, right? Or both systems. And then watch how all these members from Invest 94L, which at this point would be a tropical system, begin to get yanked to the east. It's pretty wild, right? So, I mean, you can see it pretty clear on ensemble guidance, what's going on. So, let's slow this down and try to explain this in a way where you guys as the audience can understand. Okay, and let's make sure this is going to work. And I think this is a good enough color. Let's see how black looks. We'll roll with pink. All right, so let's get this back off your screen. So let's start off by pointing out 4 things here. First off, you see this color, this area right here? That is pretty much our Atlantic ridge, right? Flow around that is going to go different than, say, low pressure. This, where I just did this check mark, that is high pressure. Okay, so you got that, you got this, and you got that. These are the 4 things I want to focus in on. Okay, this check right here, this is our trailing wave. This is Invest 93L. See that little blue speck right here? That is Invest 94L. This check right here is a sort of an upper low cutoff low. Okay, low pressure, the flow is going to work around cyclonically, okay? High pressure, the flow is going to work around like this. Okay? So let's get all this off your screen. So now that you know what's going on as far as what all these features are, let's talk about it. So this is getting into Saturday morning. Okay, at this point, the flow, like I said, at the bottom edge of this ridge is kind of going like this. So that's how these storm systems are being steered. So this one's going to continue to work kind of like this or maybe like this. And this one's going to continue to kind of work like that. You can see a weakness right in here. Right? At the same time, the flow around this upper low right here is going just like this. Okay? So this system right here, our trailing wave, is not feeling the flow of this. But our lead wave, Invest 94L, is close enough to probably start feeling a little bit of the flow from this. So you got 2 flows working in tandem. So our lead wave is going to feel both of those flows, and that's why on all the model runs I showed you, it has this area kind of getting close to the southeast coastline. Not kind of, it does. All right, so let's get this in motion. Let's go a couple days ahead here. So we continue to move forward, and this is the Euro, by the way. And then we get into Saturday morning. Let's break this down a little bit more. So at this point, same thing, flows, working around this, what is now a stronger ridge. You see these darker colors indicates a stronger high pressure. So flow still working here. At this point, you still have an upper low. It looks like it's weakening. So you're not seeing much blue or any blue right here anymore. But there is still some sort of upper low feature. So you're probably still getting a little bit of flow right here. So this system's still kind of finding this weakness and moving up into this area. At the same time, we got a strengthening hurricane on this, and we got a strengthening tropical cyclone with the lead wave. Okay? So we continue to move this forward here. At this point, we lose one of our features, which is our upper low. It's not, I mean, there's probably some sort of lower pressure over the southeast, but at this point, it's almost like ridging kind of just builds in over these systems. And I think this helps for things to get weird. And I think that if you didn't have two tropical systems really next to each other, I think the forward momentum of both of these systems would slow down even more. But at this point, we get into Saturday morning. I really think there's a possibility, Monday morning. There's a possibility that this tropical system is going to begin to slow down. Okay, you got a couple things going on. And this is when it gets tricky, guys. Okay, so with the system itself, this is the way it's spinning, right? Okay, it's spinning cyclonically, right? Flow around this high pressure just like this. And this is kind of working up against high pressure. So, our hurricane might slow down here. We got our tropical storm, which is right in here too. Okay, but I do think that if this is the way it plays out, you got a very strong hurricane, there's a chance that, this is going to be affecting the flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere pretty far out away from the hurricane. This could begin to yank on this system, but maybe not quite yet. Okay, so the system will continue to get a little bit closer to the southeast coastline. This isn't a forecast. I'm kind of breaking down if this is the way this model plays out. So at this point, this thing's just hanging out here, ready for something to make it go one way or the other. Okay, now you can see what's going on here. All right, cyclonic flow around this system. And by the way, the reason this thing begins to gain latitude because it's a strengthening hurricane, and they like to gain latitude despite a ridge, and the ridge up here is pretty weak. So cyclonic flow working around this begins to yank this way because this is the dominant storm. This is the weaker storm. So it kind of, it's not kind of, the flow around this, the cyclonic flow literally pulls this system, pinwheels it this way. Okay, so we continue to move this in motion, and look how that happens. And then it just kind of flows out into oblivion. So I hope that makes sense. This is not going to be an easy one to explain, but I want to help you guys understand. But basically, it's just like anything. When you have a dominant, the atmosphere is just like any other thing with flow, right? When you got a dominant kind of flow around a strong hurricane, it's going to yank on other features around it. You know what I'm saying? So Fujiwhara effect. I do not like saying that word. I don't like saying any word that tests the way I sound things out. So anyways, that's what's going on. Let's hope that it just doesn't impact anyone. But from just a pure, guy that's interested in weather, this is going to be a wild one and a very difficult one to figure out. I hope people understand that. But anyways, moving past this, let's talk about today's weather. We got a lot of moist flow across areas of the deep south, the south central U.S. Area storms moving across southern Arkansas into the deep south, and the Ohio Valley getting up into PA. Some scattered shower activity across southern New England. Elsewhere, a little bit of rain. You're waking up to the central California coastline. Outside of that, nothing too crazy as far as severe weather. Dense fog up here in the upper Midwest with the changing of the seasons. PA, even some dense fog across areas of eastern Carolinas, and this is just purely driven off a very moist air mass. It's only 68 degrees at my house this morning, so it feels like summer. We do got some flood watches across southern areas of Arizona. The risk of severe weather today, we have a level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather stretching from South Texas through almost the entire state of Louisiana and Mississippi, through a half of Alabama, areas of Arkansas, Tennessee, into Kentucky. So we got to watch out for some severe weather here. Elsewhere, just a general risk of thunderstorms and the risk of flash flooding. We do have a 15% risk in this area. This includes areas of northern Alabama through middle Tennessee, Kentucky, all the way up into West Virginia. So be aware of flash flooding in this area. And taking a look at what the radar could look like today. Big line of storms could make their way, kind of develop in southern Arkansas, northern areas of Louisiana, southern Mississippi, western Tennessee. And you can see how these storms continue to move through as low pressure is ejecting overhead. We get into this evening, and some of this activity can make it all the way into the southern Appalachian Mountains. We're going to get some rain across Kentucky, and then we'll probably do it all over again tomorrow across areas of the southeast, which has a marginal risk in place. But a closer look at some of these areas, Mississippi, for example. This is 4 p.m. Look at these storms moving in, 5 p.m. Come on, get in motion. 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Big storms moving across the state of Mississippi, eventually getting into northern Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Huntsville. You guys could get it later this evening around bedtime. And then eventually these can make it all the way to, say, Atlanta, but I think they'll begin to weaken by then. And taking a little bit closer look right up the road here in Kentucky and Tennessee, we get into, say, this afternoon, we get into 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., big storms moving across areas of western Tennessee, western Kentucky, some storms all the way up into southern Illinois, southern Indiana, like Carbondale, Evansville. We get into 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight tonight. And so we'll continue to watch this, but there's definitely a risk of strong and severe storms in some of these areas throughout the afternoon, evening, even overnight period. And flooding could seriously be a thing in this area. And let's look at how much rainfall could happen between now and, say, the next 36 hours. Good bit of rain in these areas. In fact, let's just take a larger look at this for you folks. Good bit of rain between now and tomorrow evening. We could use it. Could always use some rain. Don't need too much at the same time, but definitely much needed rain on the way for these areas. So moving forward here, the northeast, we get into this afternoon, scattered showers and downpours across New England. More widespread rain across Ohio, getting into western PA, and then we'll get into the overnight hours. Might be a night where you can, put the window down and listen to the rainfall outside across near the Adirondacks and just New York. And, eventually we're getting into tomorrow morning. We're going to wake up to scattered areas of heavy rain across the northeast and just showers and storms tomorrow morning across the Ohio Valley and just west of the Apps of West Virginia. The south central U.S., big area storms will get going in eastern, southeastern Texas and the northern Louisiana. Arkansas, we've mentioned that. And then they'll swing in and swing out, and that'll be it. And just a closer look at some of these areas that live in southeast Texas. And, we start to get into 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., big storms moving through Houston, Galveston, Beaumont. And we got some storms back in San Antonio. We continue to move forward here. We get into 7, 8 p.m., storms along the Texas coastline. So just be aware of a stormy afternoon and evening in these areas. And then we get into 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. We got some storms moving across central Louisiana, Alexandria, the parishes across these areas. We'll get impacts from some storms. So just be aware of a stormy afternoon, evening. And then this evening across the north central U.S., maybe some showers across areas of lower Michigan. I wouldn't expect anything impactful or anything like that, but certainly a wet time moving into southern Ohio overnight tonight. And then the western U.S., nothing too crazy if we can get this in motion. I've had some Wi-Fi issues yesterday. I actually am very surprised we're good this morning to make this video. But the central California coastline could get some showers today. So outside of that, not a whole lot. Temperatures, rain, cooled air will keep things a little bit cooler across areas of the country that's been hot. But the southeast will feel like summer, and that includes my neck of the woods here in Columbia, South Carolina, well into the 90s. And a little bit cooler in the mid-Atlantic, rain, cooled air in the northeast. And then the western U.S., pretty warm. I mean, honestly, I'm not seeing any really big cool down over the next several days, guys. In fact, I hadn't even really talked much about cold fronts or anything like that. I think we ran out of luck, folks, with all those cold fronts we were getting. I mean, this is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. And this is the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, which runs through the 7th of October. I hate that we have to waste so many days of October with above average temperatures. At least make it average temperatures, but just not seeing a really big cool pattern setting up. Now, if we do go from the 4th through the 17th looks like the Climate Prediction Center is watching an area in the middle portion of the month for maybe some cooler times. So honestly, this is the first time I've looked at this. This is several days ago. So we'll watch for that. But that's all I got, guys. Listen, real quick, we're going to be doubling up the videos starting today. So I'll have another video more than likely, unless things just dramatically drop off, which they could, tonight. But it will be later tonight because I have church. So, I mean, expect a video to drop probably around 8:45, 9 o'clock. And then going forward, they will drop a little bit earlier. But it's full speed ahead. We're tracking the tropics. So we got to figure this one out. So that's going to take 2 videos a day, getting you guys updated information. That's exactly what we'll do. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again soon.